Spelling in the Mystery School album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest from Oakland, California based, very bewitching art pop project of Miss Christia Cabral, aka Spelling, who has been at it for quite some time now, and I've been aware of her work for years, dating back to her early singles. I did listen to her debut album around the time, Pantheon of Me, and I thought that there were pluses here and there were some minuses here as well. On one hand, the atmosphere on this album was absolutely divine, and I really did think that Spelling's just headfirst dive into this sound was actually pretty whimsical at times. It was really dark stuff, but at the same time I kind of worried that this album was maybe a little bit too subtle, if that makes any sense. I don't know, that was just me. But around the time of her follow-up, Maisie Fly, I was very much so in my, if Sacred Bones is putting it out, I'm going to listen to it phase, which I did, and I absolutely loved the damn thing. It was one of my favorite albums of the year. I mean, instantly Spelling's brand of very witchy, very dark art pop with some really ghoulish synths floating throughout the thing. It maybe wasn't a perfect album at the end of the day, but it had me looking in her direction. It was such a unique and fresh sound to it. Now, her follow-up album, The Turning Wheel, I enjoyed it quite a bit as well. Honestly, this is my all-time most viewed video on this channel, thanks to a very special Melon who commented on my video before he gave it a 10 over on his channel. Shout-outs to you for that, Fantano. But honestly, the album overall, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it a whole lot, but at the end of the day, I kind of got to thinking about Spelling's music, and I just wish that she went darker with it, and a little bit more abrasive, and maybe brought in some more elements of like DarkWave and stuff like that. Now, leading up to this project, it became very clear when she announced it that this is not new material. This is all re-recorded material from her first 3 albums, and listening to the singles, I had very mixed thoughts. And honestly, this album, it's a very mixed bag for me. A lot of these variations, though, they do hit pretty hard, like the intro here, Walk Up to Your House. This is a great rework. This is so dark. Like to quote the poet SpongeBob SquarePants, this is advanced darkness, and just hearing Christia's very soulful vocals in between this very twisted ambiance. She sounds just lost in this fog, and I love it. Pacing here, the drama. This is my kind of reworking here. This is exactly what I expected to hear, and you know what? It does right by the original. You know, it just adds just enough to add some twists and turns. It's just a really great variation. I have a lot of the same feelings on Under the Sun. I think this is one of the best reworks here. I love the off-kilter, almost new disco groove that we get in the background. There's definitely a slight funk to this. The strings are a really nice touch. This track just sounds fuller than ever, and Christia's performance, dare I say, there's some sass to it. And she made the right moves here by keeping some of the little details that made the original so enchanting, like the swelling synths. It's awesome, and Haunted Water may be the best track here. I love the bulkier synths that we get here and just how dense this atmosphere is. I mean, what a cool vibe. This track just creeps along, building more and more tension. The drum work is great. This is right here just enough to be a reason to listen to this album. I mean, this was already one of my all-time favorite Spelling tracks. Dare I say I like this one better. And it is all a build up to the last 30 seconds, which it absolutely should be. This is great. A lot of the same feelings on Hard to Please, the reprise that we get here, the tension here, the drama. It is thick with like 10 C's. Despite how absolutely gorgeous this track is. I mean, her vocals have only gotten better. It's artsy, it's soulful, it's got a lot of heart. I love the backing synths. A lot of the little details on this track really pop. It's great. But much like a lot of the compilation albums that I've reviewed in the past, I feel like this album just varies from track to track. It's a very mixed bag. You're going to get some really great reworks, then you're going to get some ones that just didn't need to be here at all. Like They Start the Dance, for example. This just goes from really blissful and interesting to just kind of awkward very quickly. Like, there are so many breaks on this track where, you know, Christia just sounds lost in the ambiance, which on paper sounds great. But the truth is, the pacing is so off on this track that it really doesn't add anything to this track at all. Yeah, it's a letdown. And Cherry for me is just, I don't know, this track is just rough. I mean, leading up to this album, Cherry was one of my least favorite spelling tracks of all time. But I actually think this version is worse. The atmosphere on this actually takes away from the mystique of this track, the little that it did have, and the layered vocals just sound ugly. The synth work is really ugly too, and this track just doesn't progress. I think it's the worst track, or worst variation that we get here. And the rework that we get of Phantom Farewell, I really want to like this track because it has such a dense atmosphere. There is such a level of mystique to it that is so unbelievably cool. The layered vocals, they're a nice touch as well, but my issue here is a different one. You know, that first Spelling album, it's not really for me, and this rework here, you know, it's certainly a little bit better, but I still don't think the songwriting adds up to where Christia is. Yeah, this album, you know, there's definitely a lot of cool ideas and cool thoughts on here, but I just think at the end of the day, if you're a Spelling fan, you're going to want to check this out. Just don't be surprised if this album's a little bit of a mixed bag. You know, the variation we get of Boys at School here. I mean, I was never that high on this track to begin with. I know people love it. This version that we get here, it's even longer, and the original was pretty long to begin with, but it's a lot more subtle as well, and you know, it does have some cool atmospheric twists to it, but I just feel like it's drawn out. I mean, it's an over 8-minute track, and after 5.5 minutes, yeah, things improve a little bit, like the finale is amazing, but it's too little too late. From the rendition that we get of Always, though, is one of the best here. It's actually more sweet and delicate than the original, which is something that we haven't heard much on this album, but it actually adds a lot to it. The vocals that we get here are immaculate, and the very classy pianos and this swirling atmosphere bring everything together. This sounds like Spelling performing at the darkest or witchiest lounge that you've ever seen in your entire life, and that's a great look for her. The variation that we get on Revolution is a little too light on the ears for me. Sorry. I mean, it's very elegant art pop, which is totally fine in my book at the end of the day. It's just not nearly as dark and bewitching and whimsical as a lot of the other material here. I do think some of the production tricks are fantastic. Her vocals, like I said, they're great. It's just kind of middle of the road for me. But Sweet Talk as a finale here, it's a really fantastic finale. It's got the haunted beauty of her early work. It's soulful, it's passionate. That darkened lounge vibe is back as well. It's pretty stunning. Her performance is charismatic as hell. I think this is absolutely better than the original. Yeah, this album it's interesting. If you're a Spelling fan, you're going to want to listen to what she's doing here. There's a lot of very interesting renditions. Some are even better than their originals. It's just a mixed bag, because some of them actually take away from the originals and what made them so interesting to begin with. On top of that, the tracks that I didn't like to begin with aren't really elevated that much at the end of the day. This to me could have been a 5 or 6 track EP, or maybe something even shorter, just a little interesting snippet. But if you're a Spelling fan, check it out. It's a little bit too of a mixed bag for me. I'm feeling a decent 6 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.